Let's read Cicero's Pro Caelio, chapter 79. Now, what happened in the previous bit? We went from 77, and then we've skipped 78. That's because this is kind of like he brings in a political opponent of his, the crony of Clodius, a guy called Sextus Cloelius, a confusingly similar shaped name to Clodius, and says this bad guy was acquitted. Don't let a good guy get condemned while a bad guy goes free. And in my opinion, that's a little bit more, it's a bit unrelated to whether Caelius is really innocent or not, but it is part of his kind of emotional appeal. Bad guys are getting away with stuff. Don't let bad stuff happen to good people. And so from there, it gets back into talking about Caelius, and here he begins the miseratio, or appeal to pity. As you know, miserus is pitiable, and miseratio is derived from that, appeal to pity. Quod, the commentator says, translate this as but. It kind of is like, in regards to this, kind of just discard that as a but. Cum huius vobis adolescentium propossueritis. When you have considered the youth of this man, vobis is dative reference for yourselves, in regards to yourselves. When you have for yourselves considered the youth of this man, constituitote antoculus etiam huius miseri senectutem. So here we have a contrast, adolescentiam senectutem. Constituitote is an archaic kind of form of the imperative, meaning just, it's a command, place or set antokulos before your eyes. Etiam, also the old age of this wretched man, misery, wretched, pitiable man. Now, Huius, he's now going to be gesturing towards Caelius's father, Caelius Senior, and that would be the wretched old man, the father of Caelius. Place before your eyes also the old age of this wretched old man, qui hoc unico filio nititor, who depends, who literally leans on this one son, who depends on this one son, in huius spe requiescit, in the hope of this man he rests. So he rests, who rests on this man's fortune or hope. Huius unius casum pertimescit, who fears, and timeo is fear, the pair bit strengthens it. So who is greatly fearing. The casus is not causa, it's very similar spelling. Casus is mishap, misfortune, or chance. So casus, who this man who fears the lot or the misfortune of this one man, his one son. Now we're going to have a long sentence. Quem vos supplicem vestrae misericordiae serum potestatis abiectum non tam ad pedes, quam ad mores sensusque vestros, vel recordatione parentum vestrorum, vel liberorum jucunditate sustentate. Our main verb is sustentate, but we don't need to get to that yet. We can just keep it in the back of our mind. Quem, him, it's relative, connecting relative, picking up on Caelius Senior, the old man. Vos. Vos has to be nominative because quem has to be accusative. Vos here has to be nominative, has to be the subject. You guys. And so our expectation in reading is it's got to be a second person verb or also a second person verb, a imperative command. You guys, do something to him. I'm going to use the something here until we get up to our main verb because we don't need to know that yet. We can suspend it in our minds. You guys, do something to him as a supplicem, a suppliant. I don't like this word actually because I only ever see it in translations and I never see it in real English. But a suppliant is someone who depends on mercy. You guys do something to him as a suppliant of. This is vestrae misericordiae in the genitive of your mercy. As a slave of your power. Him who has been cast down or cast away. He's been thrown down, not so much at your feet. So there's an imagery thing going on here, but not something that's literally happening. Would be a bit too over the top. He's not cast down so much at your feet as at your morals, your customs, and at your senses, or you could say your sensibilities, your thoughts. So something him who's a suppliant of your mercy, slave of your power, cast down not so much at your feet as at your customs and your thoughts. Well recordatione, either with the or because of ablative cause, the remembrance of your parents. So either from the remembrance of your parents or because of the jucunditate, the joy of your children. Now we get to our main verb. What should you guys do? Sustentate, sustain, or basically like don't kill him, sustain him, save him. Ut in alterius dolore vel pietati, vel indulgentiae vestrae serviatis, so that you may be of service to or serve in another person's grief. So alterius, the ius is that kind of irregular genitive form, in another person's grief, that you may so that you may serve, be of service to either your sense of duty or your sense of your kindness. Dative, I think is a dative of reference there, so that you may be of service for your sense of duty. Pietas is a very important concept in our study of Latin. Indulgentia is being contrasted here. Pietas, as we remember, is duty to, like at least in Virgil, it's duty to your family, duty to the gods, duty to your nation state, your people. And so it has this kind of dignified, it's a reverent exchange of doing the right thing by the people who are sustaining you, the family, the gods, the state, and sustaining them. Here it seems to be a piety, a kind of duty focused towards the Father, whereas indulgentiae, indulgence, that is kindness. It's kind of like an overbrimming joy towards a kind of laxness, letting people do something because you love them, kind of indulgence or kindness towards children. So that one's kind of, pietas can be a little bit more rational indulgentia is kind of like, do it because you love them kind of thing. That's covering all bases for Cicero. Make sure that you can serve in another person's grief, another person's troubled circumstance or pain. Either serve your sense of duty or your kindness. Nolite judices, aut hunc iam natura ipsa occidentem velle, maturius extingui vulneret vestro, quam suo fato. There's going to be an out, but I've stopped halfway through there. Nolite, don't. Oh, judges, either. And then, welle is going to be our infinitive here. A bit hard to spot because it's an irregular infinitive. Don't wish. Hunc, this man, still referring to the old guy, Caelius Senior. Don't either wish that this old man, Iam natura ipsa occidentem, which describes the old man already, ablative phrase, by his very nature, dying. Don't wish that this already by his nature dying man, maturius extingui. Maturius is an adverb form, and the ius is comparative adverb. Don't wish him to be extinguished. Extingui from extinguere. That e is the infinitive passive form. To be extinguished. Don't wish him to be extinguished, to be blotted out, snuffed out too early or earlier. It's the comparative adverb. Vulnere vestro quam suo fato. These two ablatives are compared after that comparative. Earlier by your wound. Vulnere is the alternate spelling for vulnus vulnerus. So vulnere in our Oxford Latin course books, but vulnere here. It would be pronounced vulnere anyway. Just a spelling. Don't wish him to be extinguished by your wound earlier than by his fate. When he was actually supposed to die. So basically, don't kill this old man. Don't either want to do that, wish to do that. Out hunc nunc primum florescentum firmata iam stirpe virtutis, tam quam turbinaliquo aut subita tempestade pervertere. Don't do that, or either, and then pervertere will be our main infinitive here. It's a bit far away though. Don't do something to this now firstly flourishing man. So this man who is now in his first flourishing, firmata iam stirpe virtutis goes together. It's ablative firmata. With a firm, and then iam is kind of describing that, even like an already firm stirpe. Actually, it shouldn't be a macron there. That's a third declension ablative. With a firm root of virtue already, with already such a firm root of virtue, don't something him, tam quam turbine, as if in a turbine aliquo, in some whirlwind, aut subita tempestate, or as if with a sudden storm, pervertere, overturn in the sense of like mow him down, like flatten him. Don't overturn this man now who is now in his first flourishing, already with a firm root of virtue, as if in some kind of whirlwind or sudden storm. So what's the imagery there? That's gone back to the root, the imagery of green plants. With here, he's got a firm root of virtue already, and don't let him get overturned in a whirlwind. Oh no, or in a sudden storm. It's kind of unfortunate circumstances. Don't let it happen. Now we have some really good commentary here, which I will do well to read out. There are many antitheses in this chapter that strengthen the appeal to pity. The overall principle governing one set of these antitheses is that of youth as opposed to old age. We highlighted that. That was adolescentiam. Let's make it reddish. Adolescentiam and senectutem were contrasted the young and the old. And the same opposition informs two other antitheses, parentum liberorum in line 6. Let's see. Either by the remembrance of your parents or by the joy you have in children. And occidentem and florescentem, these two participles, present active participles, are getting contrasted here. That's occidentem here. There's a guy who's already by his very nature dying, and there's the person who is first in his first bit of flourishing. In each pair, the contrast is built around youth and its implicit possibilities on the one hand, and old age with its accomplishments and decline on the other hand. We see this idea most clearly in the opposition of children and parents, but it's implied as well in flourishing and dying. The point of these antitheses is that Caelius, a young man, has promise for the future, as do old children, and is already growing towards fulfilling that promise, even as his aged father, who has placed all his hopes in his son. That's the one who rests on his son, in whom he rests on his hopes, the hopes of this man. His declining and fading due to age. Cicero stresses the opposition between youth and old age to underline the responsibility that the jurors have as mature men, parents themselves, to this young man whose future, just as that of their own children, is in their hands. And I would also add the idea of the parents, but that's about coming right here. Another antithesis, pietati versus indulgentiae. That's what we had here in the circled bit. Pietati indulgentiae. It also involves the parent-child relationship, reflecting the jurors' experiences in relating to their parents with pietas, devotion, and compared to their treatment of children with kindness. Finally, the antithesis presented in Misericordiae Potestatis in line 4. So that was where he was a suppliant, that is a person depending on mercy, of your mercy, and as a slave in your power. That contrasts the two aspects of the role of jurors. They have both pity and power. Ideally, their power will be tempered by the pity that they feel for Caelius' father's potential loss of his son, and they will acquit him.